Welcome, humans, to the Neuron AI Explained. I'm Corey here with my good friend and Neuron writer Grant Harvey. How are you, man?
Doing good, Corey, as always. Today, we are stepping outside the core AI research bubble and into the real world market where AI actually gets sold, implemented, and supported. And we are joined by Victoria Durgin and Katie Bavoso from Channel Insider, our sister publication that covers channel sales, MSPs, and the ecosystem most businesses rely on, often without the public ever really realizing it exists. I'm in the latter camp, so I'm excited to chat. We'll define what channel even is, why it exists, and how AI is changing who wins and who is running behind.
So, before we get started, if you haven't yet, take just a minute to subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. Helps us continue bringing you all the movers and shakers inside the AI space and the people who are actually building the tools. But now let's get down to business. Victoria, Katie, welcome to the Neuron.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, long time listener, first time caller. So
I love it. I love it. Well, we're so
uh,
glad to have you here. Kinda, just to recap, this whole thing kinda came together because we were at a company leadership retreat, and I watched Victoria give a very passionate explanation as to what channel is, and I remembered thinking, "Well, people should be, buying their AI this way and doing other things. There are a variety of things where this could be really beneficial," and I thought, neuron readers really ought to know this exists because I figured if I don't, surely someone else doesn't either. So, while we can't do the 4 hour long late night explanation, I'd love if you could kind of explain channel.
yeah, no, thanks, Corey, and you're welcome in advance to all listeners and readers who don't have to endure the 4 hours of whatever I blocked out and delivered at that night house. But I'm actually gonna flip it to Katie. I think to start, she has a great analogy that I think is a great starting point that I use when I'm explaining it. So I'm gonna let her do it in her own words since she's here.
I
For
love that.
sure. This is a test. All right. Thank you so much, Victoria. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Corey, don't be one of those people who suddenly get self-conscious about not knowing what the channel is, because there's also so many different words for it. The IT channel is just a distribution channel, like any other channel that gets product to customer to the consumer across the world. We're just the only ones that call ourselves the channel, and many people inside this space actually don't even call it the channel. So we can have conversations with people that we literally are in the same industry as, and they're not referring to it as the channel. So if I've already lost you, let me try to bring you back by using that simple sort of comparison that Victoria was talking about. The way that I learned it and the way that it helps for me to explain it is when you think about milk. So think about milk as you think about actual IT products, technology products, computers, software. Those products are not necessarily direct to consumer at scale. So when I want to go get milk, where do I go? I head to the grocery store. I
Grocery
head
store.
to a Hannaford, a ShopRite, Publix. I'm really trying to get all the regions of the country here with your grocery stores. um, I don't go.
Albertsons, where you
Yeah,
at?
exactly. I don't go to Hood. I don't go to Stonyfield, to the actual sites in which they produce these milks and actually milk the cows. I go to a grocery store in order to purchase, because if Hood and Stonyfield, and I really hope I could say these names because this is going to be a lot of bleeping if I can't, but if all of these particular milk distributors wanted to get milk directly to me and I had to go to them, it would be a mess, a
Mm.
logistical mess for them to be able to do that. So
Oh
they
yeah.
rely
Well, we
on.
used to have a distribution for milk. It was called the Milkman, right?
Yes, yes. This is Grant. Like, the milkman was maybe the AI of his time, but we can get into that at a different point. So,
Interesting.
so in this case, and Grant throwing the milkman strategy in there is also going to give me a few other comparisons. But to get
Love it.
back to my original point, within the channel, you can consider MSPs and resellers, managed service and solution providers and resellers, as the grocery store situation here. So
Okay.
we're not going as consumers directly to HPE. We're not going to Dell. We're not going directly to these vendors that are providing the software and the hardware at scale for our companies. We're going to these smaller shops who are able to provision us from everything from those computers that all of us need. And when I say us, I mean the employee base, to the
Yeah.
software and cybersecurity that is built onto them. And the reason for that is because when we go to these MSPs and resellers and other solution providers, they're able to work with the vendors at scale where it's not just one vendor they're working with, they're working with a ton of them. That's why when you get a laptop that's maybe a Dell laptop, has an Intel Core processor on it already, thanks to another channel relationship, and you get it with maybe Bitdefender built onto it already, which is a cybersecurity software. These are all different pieces of technology that are built into one computer, and they're able to distribute them to your workforce of anywhere from 25 to 200 people, even more. So that is, in a nutshell, what the channel is. It's a method of getting the technology to the consumer through the channel, which in this case would be resellers, MSPs, MSSPs, distributors. I can name a whole bunch of them and I will lose you very quickly. So I will make sure we kind of address these as we go. But that's what it is. It's a distribution method to get to the consumer in the workforce.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a clarifying question just to make
Yeah.
sure I understand this.
There is
So,
no milk involved, Grant. I'm sorry.
oh, okay, that's
That
fine.
was just a
I'm
metaphor.
lost now. I've
Yeah,
lost
who
it.
is the almond milk in this example? What is what is the alternate milks coming to play? No, uh, why don't most small businesses buy technology directly from hyperscalers? And I guess on top of that, are you saying that it's a way for the like IT package providers to sell their software directly through the Dell computer? Like that's where I'm trying to wrap my
I
head
do
around. Yeah.
realize that I put in a strategic relationship compared to a customer relationship in there as well. So, Victoria, I'm going
Right.
to let you come in on this one because I love the question of why can't we just go to
Why
Mr.
don't we
Dell
just go?
and
Yeah.
why can't we just ask for a computer? Yeah, Victoria, please.
Yeah, so Grant, I think to answer your question, we'll flip the perspective here and I'll act as the vendor in the situation. And I know we're on the Neuron, so maybe we'll take the AI example here too. If I'm,
Sure.
you know, Google Cloud or Anthropic or, insert
Yeah.
name that you're familiar with here. Um, I want the millions of SMBs in the US and around the world to use my technology. I don't want to service it every time it breaks.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't want my direct selling teams that can go sell the $1 million deals at the enterprise level to, comparatively speaking, spend their time on much smaller deals. And so when I'm a vendor, because I mean, we're talking millions of businesses that then employ millions of people, right? Like we're talking at wide scale here. So I want a resale channel to really go and do like 90% of the work for me.
Wow.
So then on the flip side of that, right, if I'm the SMB involved, let's say I'm a law firm and I've got 20 employees, I've got a bunch of lawyers, and I've got some legal assistants and things of the nature. I probably don't want to hire a 5-person IT team.
Yeah. No.
I probably either
Not
can't
at all.
Yeah.
or just don't want to take that headcount on. So my options then are I don't have IT support, which in an increasingly digital world is really no longer an option. Or I
Right.
go find an MSP or a reseller and I say, okay, I pay one contract and you do it for me. So you're not my employee. I don't have to pay you health insurance. I don't have to put a retirement account in your name. But I do get the tech I need, to Katie's point, the physical hardware, the servers, the storage, etc. And I get somebody who can say, and also you need XYZ security and you need XYZ backup. And you probably also need to have somebody who understands technology look at you and go, I understand when you started in the business 20 years ago, you did it this way, but
Right.
there's now a way to automate that, right? And that's where the
Yeah.
AI conversation has come in of late. So it's, I would say, a mutually beneficial sales relationship ultimately end of the day. And then for the what we consider an end user business, that law firm in the example, it's also a way to stay relevant and stay digital without kind of taking on the increasingly expensive tech talent that many SMBs can't afford.
Right.
Wow.
So how would then bringing the AI into it, how would
Mhm.
then an AI company or an AI purchaser use the channel in this way? Like, well, let's maybe like spell that out.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and Katie, feel free to jump in whenever you'd like. But I would say, in some ways, in that exact way, right? So when we're talking about specific solutions, like let's say a Microsoft Copilot or
Hmm.
a Google Gemini that's embedded in Workspace already, those companies already have these motions, right? And with Copilot in particular, that's kind of the easiest example because you're already Microsoft has a massive indirect channel worldwide
Right,
for 365 as a software suite. So now
right,
that expansion is kind of a land and expand on if your customers are already using M365, we want you to go have the conversation and add the Copilot licenses.
right,
And then we want you to also be able to enable them to use the Copilot so that they don't, to be really blunt about it, get mad that they're paying more now.
right. And then it's not
Right.
being used,
And
which
it's not
is
being
kind
used.
of an issue. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that kind of
Yeah.
wrap around, like, don't just sell it, get people to use it conversation is where a lot of AI companies, I think, are starting to unlock the additional value when it comes to the channel. But frankly, with the way AI is growing, and I don't need to explain this to your audience, which is kind of nice, there's so many startups doing so many, we could probably talk about 100 products a day and still not cover them all. So they don't
Right.
all have channel programs necessarily, right? There's
Yeah.
also, not to overcomplicate the conversation, a burgeoning industry that is AI enabled products for the MSPs themselves,
Okay.
because
Hmm.
partner businesses are also businesses that need to run in the same
Yeah.
way that they're serving businesses that need to run. So there are plenty of companies that just make products for the MSP to use.
Targeting
Right.
the MSP itself.
Correct. So
Right.
things
Okay.
Right.
like, automated help desk, ticketing resolution, like all of these things that you would think of, if I'm hiring you as my IT, that's what your kind of business is built on. They're also in the AI game now. So you can also, like, we could really expand this out and be like 10 layers deep in
Right.
companies that are adding AI on, companies that are AI native, who they're selling to and why they're selling to them. But at the end of the day, it's kind of this, and I know you guys have talked about this, creating AI is great, but getting people to use it
It's
in
tricky.
a business setting is a lot trickier, and getting them to do it securely and, with compliance in mind and things like that.
And with the one you want them to use.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And the
And
one that they're, approved to use responsibly, and
Well,
exactly.
yeah, because
and that's
ghost
actually
AI,
a
that's
part
a
of
real
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
mean,
Yeah. What do you mean?
sorry, not to interrupt. I just am just really chomping at the bit, really excited. But
But
to give kind of an example to back up what Victoria is talking about, there also is kind of a differentiator where you've got businesses that are selling or reselling AI tools themselves, and then ones that are building onto those AI tools with their own services to increase that value. So, for example, I was just speaking with the CEO of Spyglass MTG yesterday. We have a great article on our website right now by Jordan Smith if you want to go to channelinsider.com and check that out about their brand new AI navigator. So this is a great example of how to add value onto an existing product. So Spyglass is a Microsoft exclusive partner, meaning that that is only what they deal in is Microsoft products. Microsoft is a great example of showing how AI can be built into a suite and then distributed at scale in ad nauseum. Exactly, honestly, because anybody that is on the suite for Microsoft, similar to how Gemini is on Google's suite, you've got the power for it. You might not know, and the worst thing that you could do as a business is be paying for all these tools that are built into a software suite and then have no idea that they're at your disposal or how to use them. So
Right.
what Spyglass has done is that they've actually built an AI navigator, so another LLM. I hesitate to use the word chatbot, but think of it like that,
Hmm.
into their system when they offer Microsoft, the suite of Microsoft. You're able to go in and chat with the system to be like, how can I use Copilot for these use cases? And they've actually already created prompts that are pre-made that you can select from in order to talk to the system to learn how you as the business can use Copilot. This saves so much time, and it also really extends the value of that provider who is not just managing these tools and not just doing break fix, which is that's a term now that you cannot just do to going in and fixing things and patching things. It
Yeah.
has to be so much more in order to get ahead in the market, because as Victoria said, it's such a crowded space. You
Yeah.
have to do so much more, which we'll be getting into some examples later on. But that was a great example, in my opinion, of showing how maybe they're not offering an AI tool that they came up with, but they are offering their own AI tool to be able to be built into the system as an accelerator, not a product that is standalone. So that's an example of
Yeah.
one managed service provider that is able to kind of build onto a great tool that is already coming with a system. There's some other ones, including Thrive, which is based in Massachusetts, where I am. Victoria and I, we love talking to them because they're so jazzed about how their AI services are being built, where they're literally trying to help their customers understand the use cases that they can use AI for, select the correct AI LLM for them to use, the correct model for them to use, I should say, and then how do we also use our MSSP services managed. We love to talk in letters in the
You
channel.
do.
Yeah.
Um,
We
so
might need to define these
yeah,
acronyms,
yeah.
but you said it, managed service provider, right?
Yeah,
That's
managed security service provider. How do we build on those security services to then lock down what tools that you're using and be able to monitor this and learn from it and gather data? So you can see it's kind of a compounding of services that get piled onto each other. It's like a really great layer cake or lasagna. Like, not to sound like Donkey from Shrek, but like everybody loves layers. We got
Yeah.
layers.
No, they do make the world go round.
That's
True.
right. This reminds me of something that we're seeing in the AI space as well, where we're seeing people who are kind of, excuse me, companies that are sort of cornerstones of their specific niche of industry. Like maybe it's in Adobe, for example. I use them quite often. Taken on that AI responsibility in their space and implemented it in ways that are both like palatable and make a lot of sense for their users. And to me, this makes a lot of sense because they're the companies that already have all of these subscribers. Like it's essentially the same thing Microsoft and Google are trying to do because they already have all of these people. But I assume that's happening in every industry to some level, or should be by now if it's not.
Yeah, and I think, Corey, to your point too, from our perspective in the channel, right? There are MSPs and resellers who have kind of verticalized themselves too, right? Like, to go to my example on the law firm earlier, some MSPs just specialize in supporting law firms and they don't really take on other clients. The same is true of healthcare, it's true of retail, it's true of banking and financial
That
services.
makes sense.
And so, to your point, in that perspective, right? If I can be the strategic advisor that goes to my law firm owners and says, hey, here's how you can use AI. Here's what you can use. And here's how I can ensure that you're not breaking compliance so that you can remain certified to practice. Here's how you're not using proprietary data, secure data to train those tools, right? And I can promise that. And you're probably going to believe me when I promise you because you've worked with me for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so me saying that to you is a lot different than a kind of nameless, faceless AI startup saying it. And they might be
Right.
just as true and correct in saying that,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to relationships, and the channel
Yes.
is basically one big relationship, and you trust people that you like, and you trust people who have proven themselves to you over time. Which is also why I think from a business standpoint, the bigger names like the Microsofts and the Googles do have a bit of a leg up over some of the
Yeah.
newcomers, because if I'm a business owner, not a technical expert, and I'm going, well, I've bought Microsoft for 20 years, so
Yeah. And
okay.
Windows is on nearly all of the computers.
Or
Right.
the classic line was, no one ever got fired for buying IBM, right? Like that was
Correct.
one of the yeah.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
like if it's tried and true, it's not like you're jeopardizing your. Well, let's stick with the legal example for a second. So imagine are either of you familiar with the AI startup Harvey? That's a legal, like basically like a lawyer tool.
I think a
Okay,
little
so
bit, yeah.
we'll
Is
just
that the one
imagine
that
you
makes
are.
you a lawyer? Like, gives you like a guy that comes in and he's like, I'm your lawyer now as an AI bot? I
Uh,
don't think it is. I'm just kidding, but
No.
no, it
No, but it's
might
way
be.
funnier that way.
okay.
It's an AI, basically it's an AI tool for lawyers is my understanding.
Mhm.
I've never
Yeah.
used it. Thankfully I've never had needed it. But
Yet.
imagine but imagine you're a tool like Harvey, and no relation by the way, and you're trying to sell to those companies that you just mentioned who do have the relationship with the law firms. how would you be able to use the channel in order to do that?
Great question.
Yes.
So there's a few ways. I'll let Katie jump in too, but what I will say is in order to get into the channel, you have to get the channel to like you a little bit, right? And what I mean by
Uh,
that is not, in the kind of ubiquitous sense, but usually companies, tech companies who operate within the channel have kind of programmatic structures in place by
uh,
which MSPs do something called deal registration.
Mhm.
So you would go to said company and say, hey, I have this law firm and they want to buy Harvey in this example. If I do that on their behalf, can you promise me that you're not actually just going to cut me out of the deal at the last second? So
mm,
I, as an MSP, get my margin on the resell. You, as Harvey, get your percentage of profit because it's your products ultimately
Yeah.
that's buying. And then I, as an MSP, handle the provisioning, usually also any integration work that needs to be done in the ecosystem of other products that the client has. And I will handle maintenance and service opportunities. Harvey, do
uh,
you like this? If so, let's draw up a contract. And then Harvey would say, great. Now, for smaller startups, that can be kind of a one-to-one form situation,
Is that a
but it
little more ribeyes and Cristal?
yeah. But when you kind of start scaling up the chain, right, and you're one
Yeah.
of the bigger names, you're not doing that on a one-to-one basis every
Yeah.
day because that's insane. So
Right.
you have more of a wholesale program in place where you either kind of bring partners in and approve them.
mhm,
So that's when you get into the kind of authorized partner label that you'll see
Okay.
many MSPs carry for things like the Microsoft, the Google, the AWSs, etc. You basically go through an approval process, and then company says you can legally resell my products, wrap around your services, and those agreements are in place.
nice.
In the
Got it.
Harvey example, I don't know specifically what they do if they do it, but that's kind of
Right.
the margin structure that goes into things like this. And then you would get kind of nuanced from there on when you would escalate like a service ticket if something goes wrong, what the MSP is responsible and liable for, what Harvey in this case is responsible and liable for, right? If there's a breach, if there's an extended outage, like you very quickly get into these kind of like existential questions on who's responsible when insert expletive here hits the fan. But that
Right.
is at core, that's kind of how the channel works, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And there definitely has to be reason to be able to build a channel around a product. If it's super, super specialized, that's going to be a bit of an issue. If it's super specialized in a vertical, that's one thing, is we're using law offices, for example, here. And I just wanted to add, verticalization is something that we're seeing in 2026 be so important. So as
Mm,
Victoria was saying, you're going to see MSPs and other solution providers really continue to drill down into one specific area, maybe a few. Some of them will even get almost sub verticalized, where they're not just
mm,
getting into healthcare, they're specifically getting into nursing homes that
mm,
have
Wow.
X number of beds, or are on this very specific system with like a healthcare provider. So it's verticalization is going to be so important in 2026 because it's how people are differentiating. And to Victoria's point, offering something like Harvey, and not to I don't know anything about Harvey as far as, not to give them a shine that they don't deserve, but if that is something that they realize they can offer at scale to law offices, then that is something that I can absolutely see become a differentiator for an MSP, and they go, "Oh, we want to be a part of that. Since we are very law firm specific, we can see this as being an offering. Let's work something out." That's why you're seeing a lot of ISVs now create their own channel programs. And for those who, again, letters,
I was about
independent
to ask
software vendor.
ISV.
Yeah. An independent software vendor. A lot of them are
Okay.
creating their own channel programs to be able to connect
uh,
with other MSPs. ISV is sort of this, I would argue to say newer name in the channel as far as the MSPs, the VARs go. Those are old hat, but ISVs have kind of come in as AI has really ramped up, because they
uh,
offer software, usually SaaS products that are built on top of a hyperscaler. AWS is very big on this because
oh,
AWS is one of the first ones to market with this, and they have the marketplace where a lot of these ISVs can go and put their software, their offerings in, and then people can go and buy from it. So it's really easy to do. So a lot of ones that I speak to are, hyper verticalized, or they really get into your CRM, or they really get into your system in a very specialized way to make things easier on you with these big, very AI intensive workloads, but they're built on top of AWS. So they basically say, we built a thing using your engine. We
Grant,
built a
these are the
thing.
node
Yeah.
companies I'm always
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
Like when you
yeah.
Got it. Got
when
it.
you look at a company's, tech stack workflow, you see all of these different nodes that are
Yeah.
all different tools that it's running. It's going to run through here. It's going to run through Kong. Then it's going to go over here, and it's going to run through this. And it's going to run through that, and that's those companies all over AWS that are
Yes.
packed
Yeah.
in their marketplace too. It's a bunch.
There's so
Right.
many startups right now. This is like, and I'm sure you're going to only see more this year.
Same. I
Yeah,
agree.
actually, I think the AWS marketplace example is a really great example too of how AI is changing the channel a little bit. And maybe changing is too strong of a word, but in that marketplace example, Corey, you as an end customer, right, actually much easier than ever before could go buy it direct.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
that's the example, actually, Grant, to your earlier question of like, why not
Yeah.
just go do that? In some ways, that's gotten easier over the past 5 years. And so partners, and now this is where we get complicated, right? Because AWS doesn't want to lose its partner network, because
Right.
AWS can't just sell its core cloud on the marketplace in the
Yeah,
same way, because that's a much more technical
Hmm.
deployment
Mm,
integration process.
it
right.
is.
So AWS has built marketplace to also support MSP offerings. So in the way that you can go into the marketplace and buy code from an ISV, to kind of keep it broad, some MSPs that we speak to also offered their services through the marketplace. So their customer goes into AWS Marketplace to provision security services. The MSP gets a cut, AWS gets a cut. Whatever ISV is involved in the middle there in making the product gets a cut. Everybody kind of wins.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah. So
trying
like
to
this is
relate
where,
this. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
And
No,
this
go
is
ahead.
where, when we talk about marketplaces, we also see marketplaces, cloud marketplaces like Pax8, marketplaces that are out there that don't want to call themselves distributors and are also competing with distributors at the same time. It can get a little hairy, so
Okay. I
we'll
think
have
this
to have
is.
a part two. But I say
Yeah.
this because
Mhm.
you see MSPs as needing to be, they want to make sure that they're showing up as that expert in
Yeah.
whatever technology and field that they are focused on, which is why we got so into the vertical conversation. So that is where they're trying to continue to differentiate themselves by saying, I know you could technically go do this with one of these marketplaces, but here's why you should stick with having somebody else be a part of your team in a third party sense, because we know what we're doing. You can concentrate on your business and we'll take care of the IT and everything involved in that.
I was trying to relate this back to what I know on my domain here, which is the like cloud service providers for let's say you want to run an AI model over the cloud. There are a lot of what they're called like neo clouds, or like I guess services that sort of run on top of an AWS or Microsoft Azure or something like that.
Somebody who's buying
Yeah.
space on top of AWS and
Who
then
we
Or
will get
selling that to
into
smaller
because they
businesses.
also have a channel program.
Hmm.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Blow your
But
mind
like
a little.
what
Yeah.
about, are you familiar with like Fireworks or Base 10 or any of these companies that are like selling the like tokens like directly basically, and are they part of the channel, or I'm trying to figure out how this works with what they do and differentiate it.
Yeah, that's a good question, Grant. I would have to check specific companies, so I don't want to speak to, specific organizations. I think what I would say is you might be able to find specific avenues of tech, and I think AI is a good example of this,
Uh-huh.
where businesses don't necessarily need an MSP in the middle. And so
Uh-huh.
there isn't necessarily a channel like one-to-one connection
Yeah.
in those cases. But if you are a company that's heavily invested in the AWS ecosystem, just to stick with one
Yeah.
example,
Mhm.
odds are you do have an MSP who's handling at least part of your environment. So they might be responsible for your cloud compute. They might have built your environment and your storage capacity. And so you might be kind of piecemealing some things on the side or working with other businesses and startups on things, but like your core operations that all of that kind of has to integrate into at some point is probably a channel relationship.
Got it.
Right. It makes me think of
Uh,
Vercel. Vercel would be another one, right? Wouldn't it, in this
Mm.
instance, where Vercel basically is like
yeah,
handles all of the AWS stuff, and then they're
like, yeah, they handle your AWS, they handle your, excuse me, like your Supabase, they handle your Redis,
Mhm.
they handle a variety of other little tools where when you go and, say you're vibe coding in V0 and you need a database, it's like, hey, we got you, bam, done. And
right.
it's all in this one ecosystem that's tied together, and you're just doing it through them, which is really quick, easy, and painless. And large. I don't know if that's directly the same thing we're talking about, but it certainly feels like we're in
Feels
the realm.
related.
Well, this is where AI has been like making this into such a rock spider, right? This is where AI has
Mm,
come in the last few years, who created these businesses or led to the creation of these businesses that are also trying to get a foothold in the market. So they have to go to some of the bigger dogs, or they have to form a channel program, because then if you're without a network, who are you selling to? So
Yeah.
that is that. I mean, to the point of where we're kind of going, okay, like Charlie Day in front of the wall trying to like connect all the dots here. This is that, because that is what AI has done to this space. So the
Wow.
acceleration, the confusion, the questioning, that is all directed back to what AI, and ultimately like what OpenAI a few years back when they introduced
mm.
ChatGPT for the first time, and has kind of like accelerated all of this, what that has done to the channel.
Now, are
That's
there
actually a
like
good question. Oh, go ahead.
are there pathways through the channel where you can buy OpenAI? I mean, or well, they're
That's what I
they're
was gonna ask.
they're tied to Microsoft as well, and I've wondered, like,
A lot of
obviously Microsoft's going to offer Copilot, but are
Mhm.
things from their partners generally available, or is it often here's a specific offering that's available? I was just curious, kind of how that works. Do you get the whole catalog, or
I mean, OpenAI is actively forming their channel program, or trying to build it out right now, which some of the,
Mm.
so if you're a channel chief that wants to even work for 4 weeks and make more money than you ever have, I suggest going over and trying to apply for those roles that are opening up over there. But Victoria, I'll pass it over to you on a more literal sense of what we're seeing of how you can procure that technology.
Yeah, I would say anything really at the broadest level, any product solution that has kind of an enterprise
yeah?
license component is probably fair game for a channel partner to be reselling
Okay.
in some capacity.
Mm.
That is typically because, again, MSPs and channel relationships are a B2B venture, right? So when we
Yeah.
talk consumers, we're talking employees and
Yeah.
businesses. So
Right.
there needs to be kind of a business focused tooling here. But to Katie's point, Anthropic has announced and opened quite a few partnership facing roles. So those VP titles are joining some of the bigger AI
Hmm.
platforms. And when they hire for partner roles to, really blow everybody's minds and confuse everybody some more, because that's what channel pros do, those partnerships
Love
are
it.
also like integration agreements. So like
Okay.
OpenAI and Microsoft, well, that's a bad example because of the money involved, but like that's a separate problem. But like
Understand.
Anthropic and things like that
Mm.
announce you can use us and X tool together.
Right. Well, yeah, Microsoft and Anthropic just
Awesome.
had a deal like that, right?
Correct.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
those agreements and relationships and mutual outcomes are also indirect channel partnerships in
Hmm.
some ways.
Mm.
They
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
usually are all housed within the same system, right? So when Microsoft talks about its ecosystem of partnerships, we're talking the OpenAIs and the Anthropics and the all the security tools that they integrate with, et cetera. And you're
Mm.
talking indirect resellers and you're talking cloud providers.
And everything available in Azure, I assume, which is
Correct.
essentially their AW. I mean,
Yes.
is
Yeah,
AWS,
their
but
cloud offering.
different
Right.
flavor.
Yes,
Microsoft
exactly.
WS.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
So
I'm sure they'd love that.
yeah, they're gonna love this whole conversation. Um, but no, to your kind of question,
Mm.
you can likely procure ChatGPT specifically from an MSP, but to the kind of earlier conversations we've had, I think many of those partners are being heavily influenced by the big three hyperscalers to
Yeah.
keep
Mm.
their customers in-house.
Okay.
And
Mm.
reported quite extensively, again, to Plug Channel Insider, on how Microsoft is doing that through its partner network. There's a whole slew of rebates and incentives and structured deals that
Yeah.
get much more appealing to an MSP if you're getting your customers onto Copilot.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
each of them,
Because of course they would. That
correct. Yeah. I mean, this
Interesting.
is The channel is, I always say, as much, if not more, a business conversation as it is a tech conversation.
Yes.
So,
Right.
yes, it's important to MSPs that their customers are using good technology and doing so securely, efficiently, etc. But I'm also, as an MSP, concerned about whether my vendor relationships are happy
Yeah.
because that's where my margin is.
Well, I mean, OpenAI and Anthropic have both made it very clear that this year is the year that they're competing on enterprise. I think
Mhm.
last year they were all
Yeah.
competing on coding. I mean, coding is part of enterprise, but I think this year OpenAI is like we're here to play when it comes to enterprise.
Yeah.
So, what in your mind does that change for everybody else in the ecosystem, if anything?
I would also add to that real quick that, that goes far beyond API usage as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the AI space, there's a tendency to refer to enterprise as refer to API use as like the extent of enterprise. But I mean, there's
Mm,
also there's that element as well as the element of what do we want to provide to our 2,000 employees, I think. And
right.
sorry, I just wanted to tack that on there before we got an
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a great point. I think, Grant, to your question, the answer is yet to be determined. Um,
Fair.
in the channel conversation specifically, I would say there are so many players already in
Yeah.
that I will find it very interesting, I'll say this, to watch how an OpenAI and Anthropic, etc., kind of enter enterprise now, for lack of a
Right.
better term. Right now,
Yeah.
that's not to say companies don't switch tools. They do,
Yeah.
by all means, right? So we could absolutely see a world where everybody goes, Anthropic's a lot better, and we're going to switch. But the odds are enterprises already have some form of AI that they're experimenting with, if nothing else.
Right.
And on the enterprise level, the channel conversation is also, I have probably 50 tools in my tech stack already.
Yeah.
I'm already overwhelmed with all the
Yeah.
legacy burden of tech I have. And
Right.
if I put something new in, it has to integrate with everything I'm already using because from a data perspective, and to Corey's point, from an API perspective, if I bring something in and it doesn't play with everything else, then I can't use it, right? I mean, the AI
Yeah.
Right.
conversation is data first and foremost. If all my
Yeah.
data is over here, right, I need a partner to come in and say, okay, your CRM and all of your, CSM platforms and your help desk that has all your ticketing information when things go wrong, like all of those are going to have to integrate with whatever you bring in. And I think increasingly, enterprise leaders who are hearing from the board that they need AI at all costs, but who are hearing from their CIOs and security teams that AI at all costs is breaking things,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
might not want to then go, all right, let's move everything over to something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's take another 6 months to deploy this in the way that everybody's comfortable with,
Right.
so that by July, when inevitably the next new thing has arrived, because there will always be a next new thing,
Yeah.
what are we going to do? Move it again? Like, I think.
You're gonna
Yeah.
be catching your competitors. That's what you're gonna be doing.
Mhm.
Right. And so I do think 2026 might be the year that we, at least from a channel conversation, start to see some camps emerge of like,
Mm.
I'm a partner of XYZ, right? Microsoft, AWS, Anthropic, whoever it is.
Yeah.
If you want to be my client and you want to buy AI from me, I'm using these guys because I know them. I can call them when I have questions and I understand the product. And if you want something else, Mr. Customer, please
Go
don't,
get it
because
on your
I won't
own.
use you. But you're going to have to go figure that out then because I'm not
Wow.
learning 50 different ecosystems because 50 different people want 50 different versions of a
You
model.
know,
Right.
something that could be problematic there is that one of the things we're really seeing in the AI space is that what works best for one department doesn't for another.
No.
Like, what software engineers are using versus what a writer's using versus what a
Mhm.
finance team is using or an
Totally.
operations team. Uh, it's a really big deal. And I think it points to that drive for like Microsoft's added a bunch of flexibility into Copilot. Like now you can use OpenAI models, you can use Microsoft models, you can use Anthropic
Anthropic.
models.
Yeah.
You can
Google
use
even.
all of those
Yeah.
right there in one tool at one price. I can see the attraction to that for a company where you have that flexibility among your teams to be able to take, the approach that works for you. And the truth is, we don't know what those are yet. It might be that tomorrow what's right for software engineering is different. What's right for writing might be different. And and it may just continually flip forever. I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go. All I know is right now
Yeah.
it moves with the velocity of a top fuel dragster, and Grant and I regularly feel like
Yeah.
we're the umbrella on the back.
Like, hold it on.
Just taking
Yeah.
a face full of this AI air. Yeah,
Mm.
I know what
No.
that's like. I think to the point of where we're also seeing the partners come into the conversation, and like you said, Victoria, splitting up into potential camps, like going into who they're going to side with and focus on that selling. Training is a big part of the
Mm.
offerings that managed service providers have in their portfolio, and if they can show that they can not only, it's not a one and done conversation, training is an ongoing thing, so if they can show that they can have success training, and when I say training, I should be specific for your audience and saying training the users, not training the models in this
Right.
case. So you're going to want to have managed service providers who say, we are accredited and we are licensed in being able to train on the Anthropic model or to train on
Mm.
Yeah.
ChatGPT for your company, especially because you're going to have a lot more companies who are going to lock down what LLM they can be using. So even
Mm.
if your teams are using different brands, essentially AI brands across the board, I don't see that as being something that's going to continue, Corey. Then maybe that's me being pessimistic, but only because from a top-down business conversation, nobody has time to apply compliance and governance of all different forms to several different LLMs across the board. So if somebody comes in and says, not only are we going to lock down the compliance and the governance for you, we're also going to continuously train your employees on how to use these programs as new models come out, or as new generations of those models come out every month or every quarter, whatever we're going to see. And that's why you should go with us. And that's going to definitely be a selling point for why they are going to continue with one of the many at this point in the growing AI providers. So I definitely see, as far as that goes, you're going to see a lot more people have to get, again, really granular with what they're offering with that training, and who they pick, because nobody has time to go through all the ones. So there will be a little bit of infighting amongst the AI brands.
So all of this makes me wonder, and I'd love to get both of your thoughts on this. How does the concept of people like creating their own software and bringing their own software to work change this equation? Little background, a lot of people have been using Claude Code as not just a coding agent, but a general purpose agent because it can manipulate files on your computer. There's this new one that's even more extreme than that called ClaudeBot that basically has access to your entire computer. Very scary.
Security
But then
people are
there's
absolutely gonna go, like, crawl in a hole and give up on life.
yeah. But then now Anthropic just released a new version called Claude Cowork that makes it even easier for you to create files, even if you're a non-engineer, you're not familiar with the terminal. So what are your both of your thoughts on that? Like how is that going to impact the channel and how we're selling software?
I mean, to give a few examples of what I heard you can do with that particular platform, I haven't tried it yet myself, but in this context, I've heard people being able to spin up a website super fast, and that totally eliminates their needs for website hosting platforms like Wix that require them to then pay for every month. And they're like, why would I do that when I could just make my own? And it's worked out pretty well for them. So I consider in the channel there's a couple of ways that you can pay for certain things, whether it be pay as you go or pay for what you use. I can imagine that something like that really disrupts what they're paying for on a monthly basis if they discover there's an aspect of it that they can just make themselves. So I imagine that this could really disrupt the way that software companies, or more specifically how we provide different software or SaaS tools. I think SaaS tools in general could be in trouble, in my opinion. And a lot of what the channel sells are SaaS applications, or are ISVs who provide SaaS applications. That's some of my 2 cents. But I do think that we are kind of on the cusp of just learning about this now. So I don't want to create an economic panic for anybody in the audience. I'm just
Yeah.
one girl. So that's my opinion. But Victoria, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think, Grant, maybe without meaning to, you've kind of hit at like one of the existential questions of the channel right now, which I kind of find fascinating because to your point, end user customers, right? The kind of people and employees within businesses who are going, "Oh, I watched the Neuron and they told me I can go use Claude Code for XYZ. And so I'm playing around with it. And now I've created these things. They're, I think, much more inclined now than ever before to go and rethink their entire approach to tech, right? Like, I think the last 18 months to 2 years, maybe let's just put it in context there, has really been this kind of like consumer driven culture around technology because ChatGPT went consumer before it went business, right? We'll
Yep.
talk
Mm.
a little bit later about how this kind of relates to other shifts in technology over the years in cloud and security and things. People use these tools outside of work and within work, whether their IT teams are telling them to or not, right? So I think
Mhm.
what that creates is this culture then from a leadership standpoint of I've paid for this for 10 years for you to do it for me on a monthly basis. Do I still need you? And MSPs need to figure out what the answer to that question is going to be because I would argue that they are still needed because for all the shadow AI risks that we can talk
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
and for all of the kind of wraparound ongoing support things, you do still need somebody. And I mean, we could also talk about the efficacy of, 15 different employees doing 15 different things and not
Right.
sharing those outcomes and not kind of solidifying what a business does holistically. Um, but if MSPs can't sit in a business review meeting and articulate their value in a new way, then I do think actually some of them are going to face some issues if for no reason other than business leaders and employees feel a lot more comfortable with this tech than they have, I think, with previous kind of I don't understand IT, so I'll just do what they tell me to do. Like I
Yeah.
don't I AI
Right.
is a fundamentally different approach now because people do feel empowered to go build their own things, to go use these products. And frankly, you have CEOs in the tech space telling them to, right? Like
Yep.
it's
Right.
not like employees find these things on their own. They're reading the news, they're watching, some of the biggest names in the business go, I did this in an hour and it used to take me, 4 years and an advanced degree. Like, isn't that great? If you're listening to the rich man tell you that, you're probably doing it too. So
Yeah.
I think AI has fueled much different conversations. And I think the next step of that process now is like whether things tangibly start working.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's
Right.
true. I think it really applies especially to solopreneurs and really small businesses. If you make your money, if you're a SaaS tool focusing on companies with less than 20 people or something, especially, I think that area that's already cash strapped, that has only so much budget, they're looking to do what they can. They don't want most of the features in what blah blah CRM anyway. For the most part, what they want is something that'll keep track of X and to add a few features that are specific to them. And vibe coding unlocks a lot of that to
Right.
normal people. Like I can't stress enough that Grant and I have built software, and uh, and
Yeah.
and are not.
Minor
In,
background in it, but not
yeah,
not not
you
anywhere
have more
near the
background
level.
in it. Yeah,
Not anywhere near the level that I am capable of creating.
Oh yeah, I had a
Previous to
MySpace
now.
page too. I know how to code. Yeah.
that's right.
No, totally get it.
But yep.
GeoCities for the
Yep.
win.
Yeah.
Oh
to
my gosh.
to Victoria's point actually about the consumer driven rise of AI tools, that I think is kind of a new frontier for the channel to be facing because, as I've mentioned before, channel partners are coming to their customers as that trusted advisor. You hear those words a lot. Trusted advisor is the title that they want to be for customers because it's the what differentiates them from just a regular break fix shop or a help desk. So they're able to walk them through. What was really startling for a lot of them is that a lot of the customers and their businesses in general with their employees came to them saying like we've tried this new tool before they could even bring it up. Like the customers know a lot more about AI than they did during the last sort of evolution in the channel involving cloud. So there was a lot of confusion around cloud or hybrid cloud or even multi-cloud. So this is really kind of a strange element where we see the channel providers needing to almost catch up a little bit. And that brings it back to why they're focusing so much on verticalization, why they're focusing so much on niche application uses and being the trusted advisor for something very specific because you can't go broad in this. Like there's too many tools and there's too many use cases. And at the same time, everybody wants more and more and more. So you have to protect yourself. That's been an interesting thing to watch from our viewpoint between Victoria and I and the rest of the Channel Insider team, is to see people go, people as in partners go, okay, why do my customers seem to have more questions than I have answers about AI? Because they've been using it a little too
Right.
much outside of the guardrails. So there definitely is kind of a walking it back sort of focus right now.
Yeah, and it's tough for your
Mm.
customers to come to you and talk to you about something where they understand it and you don't have an answer,
Or
you know?
Or,
It's a bad
or
look.
alternatively, I would posit think that they know
yeah.
and
Yes,
think that they understand because
that's
you know,
fair.
and that's not to say there are absolutely leaders in SMB and in all forms of business who are very kind of tech enthusiastic and are probably playing around and have probably found use cases and things before their partners did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think what's much more common is that many business leaders are reading headlines, feeling very behind and feeling like they need to do whatever to catch up. And so they enter a business meeting with their trusted advisor, MSP, and going, well, I heard so and so down the street say that they're using XYZ for all these things. And if you, as a partner, either A, generally haven't understood AI yet, or you, from a maybe a security and a compliance mindset, go, right, okay, they shouldn't be doing that though, right? And your
Yeah.
customer goes, I don't care. They think that they're doing better now financially than we are. That scares me as a business owner,
Yeah.
right? You, as the
Mm.
MSP, then have to be the bad guy that's like, right, but if they get hacked, they're screwed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't want to be them, right? But then that goes back to the security conversations that are always very like, if something happens and AI is
Mm.
showing tangible short term, I use the thing, I create the thing, that's much
Yeah.
more appealing to a business owner than the, well, on the off chance that something occurs to you 3 years down the line, you'll be grateful that we stopped you now. And that's
Right.
like the fundamental business question for most SMBs is I don't know if I have 3 years.
Mm.
Ooh, that's a good
You're
call.
right.
hmm
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
like
if
I'm
I'm
getting
gonna be here.
disrupted right now. I don't want to worry about
Yeah.
cybersecurity risks. Like,
Right. And then and to Corey's point that when we hopped on here, right? Like security professionals are sticking their heads in the sands and going, "Oh my God, they still don't listen," right? Because now it's just the next evolution of the conversation of nobody's taking the security seriously.
And if you
mm.
do, you're left in the dust is the other thing. You know, the truth is, if you're willing to worry a little less about security, there are some serious, serious advantages you can unlock right now.
Sam Altman
Uh,
just said that in a town hall. He was like, "Yeah, I was really worried that I was never gonna install this thing on my computer and give it full access, and that lasted 2 hours, and then I did it because the trade-off is just you just have so much
it's
more
just too
power."
high. Yeah,
Yeah.
like there's stuff I run that I should not run, but you know, it just unlocks things that
Sorry to
are worth
Omar and
it.
our IT team that's listening to this right now.
Sorry, Omar. We love you, man.
Yeah.
Not on my work computer, I promise.
There you go. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, well, from there, I have another question. So, does the channel kind of protect small businesses from that hype, or does it amplify it?
Mm.
I think it could be a little bit of both. In my opinion, from what I've seen, when done right, because we have to recognize that there are still MSPs out there that are probably not doing some things the correct way. Um, whether that be because of staffing, whether that be because of talent, or whether that be because of the pressure to keep up. Um, that does happen. In every industry, you have somebody that would rather be first than correct. Um, I think the ones who do it well, and I have a lot of friends out there in the channel that I really, really respect because they run their businesses the right way, because that's how they know they're going to get more clients through word of mouth. So the reason I say all this and temper myself is to say, in my personal opinion, I think that it protects small businesses from the hype, because especially in a world where the cyber attacks are not targeting large businesses anymore. It is open season. Schools,
Mm.
hospitals, children's hospitals, it doesn't matter. They're going for
If
everybody.
the door's open, they're coming in.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. We're seeing a blurring of the lines between nation state and, rogue gangs like Scattered Spider. So I think that it's important to the safe option is to go with an MSP, especially for in a small business, a small to mid-sized business, which could be anywhere from 25 people even up to 500 people, and quite
Mm.
Yeah.
a bit more than you would assume still counts as a
Yeah.
small to mid-sized business. I think going with an MSP, going with a provider and solution and service provider is the smart thing to do. I think it's going to protect them, and I think it's also going to introduce things that perhaps they would not have thought to
Ah.
introduce, because you have everybody using the Kleenex of the AI system right now,
Yeah.
OpenAI's ChatGPT. They might not even know anything about Claude, and it could be 10 times better for their use case than they realize. So I think
Right.
that it's important to consider at some point, like, you got to have people in there that aren't just going to say yes to everything. You really need to ask
Yeah.
the tough questions here. But I also think it matters that you interview properly. It's very much like dating, like interview these MSPs that you could partner with, like really figure out, are they the ones that are going to just sell you something, or are they going to be a true guide through the journey? Your
Yeah.
own
Who wants me
shaman,
to
your
hit their
AI
quota
shaman.
this month? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Who wants me to
AI
hit their
shaman, an
quota
AI
this month,
Sherpa.
and who wants
The
to work
AI
with me?
Sherpa, exactly.
Yeah.
That is actually, I forget who it is. Maybe you can help me out, Victoria. Somebody has like a Sherpa as their their sort of mascot to lead through. I have a plushie
Oh my
somewhere.
gosh. I love
I
that.
don't remember who, but yeah, I agree with Katie's point. I think that on the whole, having just even another person at your C-suite level meeting once a quarter to be like, well, did you think through XYZ before you solidified that plan? Right. Like, I think that's
Mm.
a level of protection that otherwise you as an SMB owner, tech leader, etc., are probably doing what the rest of us are doing, which is either asking Google or asking ChatGPT, what should I buy for my business? Or to go back to my earlier point, you're trusting, Brian down the street who
Yeah.
may or may not be somebody you should listen to, right? So like I think
Right.
from that perspective, it's a layer of protection. But I will say MSPs are not some kind of, group of geniuses who don't also fall for hype cycles, right? Like,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
and they're being sold probably harder actually than SMBs are being sold on some of this tech
Mm.
That's
because
fair.
a lot of the big companies in particular have really frankly bet a lot of their businesses on whether these tools get adopted, right? And they know that their channel
Mm.
partners are who's going to get them across the line. Microsoft has a vested interest at this point in Copilot working.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
It's not
Right.
going to get Copilot to work unless its partners go do that on their behalf. And so
Yeah.
Microsoft is coming down pretty hard on their partners. And
Makes sense.
then if you're an MSP, maybe you do kind of just go, well, Copilot must be great.
Mm.
That's a good call.
And that's not to
'Cause
say
you
that it
ha-
is or it
yeah.
isn't. I'm not, making a judgment call on that,
Yeah.
but it's a very interesting moment in time for all of the businesses involved in the chain that is the
Yeah.
channel. And so within that, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think within that, there's also a lot of, I don't know what's going on. And everybody tells me if I don't adapt, I'm going to be out of business in a year.
Yes.
So we're just going to do it.
So
And
we're
Right.
just gonna do it and let the chips fall as they may.
right, because because what's the alternative? You listen to people and go, all right, I'm out of business. Like
Yeah.
that's not appealing to anybody for obvious
No,
reasons.
of course
So
not. Yeah.
Why do you think AI
Absolutely.
is stressing the system differently than cloud or SaaS or previous cybersecurity waves? Is there anything fundamental about it, or, other than what we touched on? I guess.
I will say, I think the only thing other than the kind of the way the conversation has shifted is there are elements of AI as a technology that feel very fundamentally different from like a use case perspective. So like
Yeah.
cloud and the infrastructure conversation, right? Because when we say cloud, what we really mean is the shift from on-prem to cloud and what that entailed
Mm-hmm.
was not like the sexy thing that anybody actually wanted to think about. Like you need your
Right.
infrastructure in place, but nobody's like drooling over an on-prem conversation, right? Like those are not the
Other
things.
than investors on CNBC, I remember were big
Right.
on it
Yeah.
at
Like
that time. Yeah.
There's a reason
absolutely.
this is called the Neuron and AI podcast and not the Neuron a Cloud podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
So
You
the
know?
yeah.
It was one of those out of sight, out of mind things. Security, like
Yeah.
we've touched on, is the same way. You need it. It's like going to the doctor once a year. You know you're supposed to. Nobody wants to, right?
Right.
So
No.
like,
Yeah.
but AI people want, and AI kind of provides itself, I think, in ways that the others don't. Like to your point, There's open source now that didn't exist before for some of the other
Right.
technologies. And you do feel like with the onslaught of agent to agent protocols that are starting to be promised, the kind of shopping experiences of will this all be integrated? Can I go tell my chatbot to go buy something on my behalf? Like that stresses an MSP out because if my customer thinks that they can just program something to go provision,
Mm.
that's like
Mm.
90% of what they think I do for them.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that wasn't a concern with security, and that wasn't a concern with on-prem to cloud. Like
Yeah.
I do think there's something fundamental about AI that is potentially encouraging people to rethink the very like nature of business relationships right now, and
Yeah.
that feels very scary.
That's that existential element that tends to hang around AI no matter what field you're in. I mean, we've felt it as journalists,
Yeah.
software engineers feel it. There are people saying that even executives aren't going to be safe at some point from what this can do. That the truth is, it's going to be better than the average executive you would go hire.
You could
From it,
argue it's there today.
and it may be there today. That's the other thing.
average executive, but
Yeah, politicians.
yeah,
But if,
yeah.
sorry, and but I think that's a very real concern and a very real fear that I feel like overlooking and just pretending isn't the case is probably the wrong answer. I mean, as a rule, denial is not a good strategy.
It's the first stage of grief and
It's the first
transformation.
stage
So
of grief,
you have
which
to
is
get
going
through
to
it as quickly
accompany.
as possible to then
Mhm.
move on. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. What's one signal that will tell us whether AI is strengthening or weakening MSPs?
Victoria, I'd like for you to kick us off with
Oh,
this one
great.
because I want to make sure we don't say the same thing. I got a couple.
I think I'm going to take a real boring business answer here first.
Okay.
To some degree, valuation. The,
Yeah.
the kind of other aspect that we haven't necessarily talked much about in this conversation is that the channel is undergoing a real wave of mergers and acquisitions activity, a lot of it being fueled by private equity and by venture capital.
Yeah.
Those organizations are looking for AI to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether they know what that means tangibly or not, frankly, they want to see it if they're going to invest. And there are plenty of groups that are very active within the channel right now, buying up MSPs, rolling them up into kind of these larger platform organizations. There's a lot of consolidation in the industry, and I think MSP owners are at a real kind of crosshair at the moment in do I spend the capital to invest so that I'm more appealing 2 to 3 years from now for an exit? Do I spend the capital now because I want to be able to compete against the larger players that are being built because everybody else is exiting? Do I want to just sell as is and get what I can get and get out of town because this is all very stressful to me and I'm this industry kind of started really at a pivotal moment about 20 to 30 years ago, and many of those people were 20 to 30 years old at the time, and so retirement's looking really good right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That
like
makes
there
sense.
is this kind of like layered process of cash infusion, and I think over the next 8 to 12 months into 2027, where those numbers start to lie is going to be the real sign of what this means from a business perspective for MSPs.
So how highly or not highly they're valued at a year from or 18 months from now?
Yeah.
Katie,
Got
what's
it.
your take?
Yeah.
I definitely agree with the valuation. I think the rate of acquisitions and consolidation that we see kind of uptick in the channel will definitely be an indicator. I think how long that goes on for is going to be a more important indicator because every year we do see kind of this ramp up of consolidation and we go, oh, like what's driving this? So I do think you'll see, at least for the first half of the year, a lot of businesses, including MSPs, buying up smaller shops that are more focused on certain niches, certain AI verticals, certain use cases. I definitely think, though, for what's going to indicate success for me, that it's helping the channel, is you're going to see more line items added to portfolios that have to do with very specific use cases. Not long ago on
Huh.
Channel Insider Partner POV, which you can listen to on YouTube as well as all your major podcast platforms and channelinsider.com.
Plug.
Thanks, yeah.
Do
Um,
it.
I had a great conversation with the founder and CEO of Data 41, Hans Meis. He sort of stumbled into realizing that he can apply AI tools in a very unique way to tissue banks that are looking to
Ooh.
be able to speed up their processes of going through healthcare records, going through health records, going through all the data in which donors come in. And to be very clear, when I say donors, I mean bodies that come in, and
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out what their lives looked like so that they can essentially get the organs harvested and over to the people that need them much faster, which is honestly one of the very few use cases that I've heard out there of AI making our lives better, like literally making human lives better. He went to
Wow.
a
Yeah.
conference after this, and then it was just like, he's like, this is all we do now. This is the life sciences boat that we have raised our flag on because it's gone so well. So I think when
That's
you see
awesome.
more of that, when you see more line items and use cases added to their portfolios, and you can say like, this is exactly where this is going to go and how it's going to help you, I think that's going to be a big a strengthener. Less ambiguity about like, yeah, we can work with your AI and do services towards your AI, like less about that and much more saying, here's what we can do, here are the use cases that you can expect from us, and how we're going to build on that over time with our business. So that's what I think is going to be an indicator. If we don't see enough of that in the first 6 months, I'll panic a little bit, but I think that if it's going to be successful, we're going to see that.
Cool.
Just so I make sure I understand. So it would basically be like niche use cases as opposed to just AI for AI's sake. Is that
I just
more
think
or
more
less?
use cases in general. I think a lot of
Okay.
people are
Yeah.
still struggling with how to get ROI from their AI investments. A lot of people are like, look how much time it saved me on this task that I totally was like looking for it to save me time on. I think now
Mm.
people are looking for, how do I integrate this into my business process to just
Yeah.
make this make sense, and get something out of it, whether that be time to value or literal money. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just want to see more use cases that have nothing to do with kind of the, it proofread, it wrote me an email,
Yeah.
it finished my sentence, like a little bit more
It
of
thought for
those.
me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
taken over my body.
It-
Like that.
it got me a heart faster.
Yeah.
That's what I
That's
want to see,
cool.
is more intensity.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, any advice for SMBs trying to decide how to
Mm.
buy AI in 2026?
Find an MSP.
I would say, I mean, yes, the data suggests if you're an MSP, especially MSP, if you're an SMB, see, too many acronyms.
Too many words.
Too
Too many
many.
letters.
Fair enough.
The data suggests if you're an SMB, especially in North America, you are probably already working with an MSP to some degree, or a
Mm.
reseller.
Yeah.
Most SMBs in the country work with at least one outsourcing partner at this point. If you are not already talking to them, or they are not coming to you and talking to you about AI and what it means for you, you might be in the market for a new partner.
Well,
Right? I
Excellent.
think now is the time to get serious about thinking about what you want to get out of this technology. I mean, I've spent a lot of time talking to partner executives, to SMBs themselves, to vendors who are, I think, all coming around to this idea that 2025 was a lot of AI for AI's sake, to Katie's
right.
point, to Grant's point, and that's not going to be sustainable. Mm, Avoiding it entirely is probably not sustainable either, right? So, like,
Yeah.
maybe for
Right.
once in our lives, we'll get to something called nuance, which I think we've all forgotten exists. That would be my advice. If you are at this point anybody on planet Earth, please, let's just, I know it feels impossible. It feels impossible for us covering it. Take a breath, think a little, and then let's move forward, right? Let's say
Yeah.
this is working, so I'm going to invest more heavily in it. We tried this and my employees actually revolted because they felt like they were given no instructions other than use this thing or you're not valuable here. Find the middle ground and
Yeah.
build a path forward that makes you confident in what you're doing, because ultimately the goal for everybody involved in the channel is that end business stays in business. and
Yeah.
grows,
Right.
and that then up the stream everybody grows along with them. So that would be my soapbox for the day. Can we
Then
please
we
really
will all be fruitful and
talk?
multiply and yeah.
Yeah, but like, sensibly with some
Yes.
thought.
Well, Victoria, Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an
Yeah,
absolute blast. I knew this would
I
be an
learned a
interesting
ton.
conversation.
I'm
Do
thanks
what,
so
for
Grant?
having
glad.
us.
Oh, yeah.
I learned a ton. No, I learned a ton. Yeah. Yeah.
Same. Same. Lots to take away and better understand and kind of look at, how things are framed. But thank you. Where can people go to follow Channel Insider's coverage?
Yeah, Victoria, kick us off.
Yeah, so first of all, we are at channelinsider.com. That's channel how you would normally spell it, CHANNEL. Yes, that's how you spell channel. It's been a long day. Channelinsider.com. Follow us on LinkedIn and on all of the social platforms as well for all of our written coverage. But if you would like to see Channel Insider Partner POV, which is our uh, maybe less exciting, but I think just as cool version of the Neuron, you can head over to where, Katie?
You can head on over to channelinsider.com to find where you can watch it. You can also head to youtube.com. We're at channelinsider_news and trends. And you can listen to us on all the major podcast platforms. We're literally on all of them: Apple Podcast, Spotify, the list goes on. And you can always come follow us on LinkedIn as well as X. Those are our two major social platforms. And you can follow me too, at Katie Bavoso, pretty much in all the places that I just said. So please come on over. We put out new episodes every other week, so we'd love to have you.
You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter. We send once a week on Wednesdays. So if you head to channelinsider.com, you'll find the link right at the top of our page. Weekly news, trends, insights, analysis, you name it, we've got it, or at least we try to, right to your inbox.
Excellent. And the same stands for the Neuron. If you haven't yet, please take a minute to like and subscribe today. Also, pop by the neuron.ai and sign up for the newsletter that started all of this for us here. We'd love to have you as a reader and have you be a part of our community. But for today, that's it. Farewell for now, humans.